I'm recording. You can see the same page, the PowerPoint page. It's okay, or no? Just a big yellow page alone. That's it. Okay, thank you. Because for me is different, but. I hope everything will be right. I have to pray. So that's beautiful. But what is the meaning of these terms, matter and form, in philosophy? Because that's our main interest. Matter indicates possibility and possibility to receive a form. For example, the clay, in which what in Portuguese we say barro, right? The clay can become a sculpture, and the wood can turn into a chair. Right? Form is the essence of something. Substantial form is the substantial essence of something, which is the origin of all of its properties. Everything which exists, which is real, we in some way have some properties. In some instance, we'll have some properties, and by its properties, we can think of that the origin of its properties is the form of the substantial form of this object, and everything existing quantity, corporeal quantity, have the form. Okay, have its form. Form is not merely the contour or the format of some corporeal body, although this format is part of the form, but it encompasses all the possible properties that can be learned by the human intelligence. Because you know, every science, everything you can know about things in general is a description of a species. Okay. Okay. Oops. So just a moment here. Now let us speak about what we can see about in this picture. This is the matter and form in the real world. Let us explain. This is a very pedagogical example, right? Let me first say about just a clarification. The scholastic philosophers usually say that the matter is the principle of individuation. Let us understand this phrase. Two chairs have the same substantial form, right? Because as a matter of in the end they are chairs, but they are materially different. You see two or three chairs and say there are three chairs right here. They are the same thing, the same substance, or they are all things of the same species, but different in matter. All of them are made of wood, of course, but the wood is the wood of one is not the same wood of the other, but the form of both or the form of the three chairs are the same because they are chairs. They are the same thing, chairs, but different chairs in material aspect. So in this sense, matter is the principle of individuation, right? And the form is the description of species. By the form, you explain a collection of several individuals. We see a lot of individuals having the same, belonging to the same species. The species is explained by the form, right? But now let us look for these three pictures. In the left, you see a bunch of construction materials like steel, wood, and concrete, maybe. This picture can represent the matter content or the material structure or layer of the buildings in the picture in the right, because in the left right you see the already very, very beautiful buildings. But these buildings are substances. Each building is a substance which has the matter part and the formal part. The matter part is represented by the materials in the left picture, right? So the buildings represent the whole substance, the composition, inseparable composition of matter and form. And the picture in the middle represents an intermediate layer. That's an intermediate layer here, right? Is as an intermediate floor between the material floor and formality floor, but in the middle we have intermediate layer as a transition between just matter and matter with form. Here we have matter, and here you have, in the right, we have matter and form. And here in the middle, we have some matter arranged in some way that there are some form missing. There are some missing form here, you can see, right? So here we see a complicated arrangement between the construction materials, but we can observe that by this arrangement we can perceive or we can anticipate the whole building which is missing, right here in the right. By looking at the middle picture, our perception detects a missing form. I mean, we perceive a building that does not exist here in the middle. And we can perceive many things, like if the building will be a commercial installation or a residential and so on. And everything I can anticipate belongs to the formality, to the formal principle which is present in the whole building. Right. In the right, we perceive a completeness. We see an entity with all of its substantial form together with its material component. Right? Any questions until now? I will show another example. Right? Right? Please. You asked me. You are asking if I can separate matter from form. Yes, we can separate. Ah, yes. Okay. That's a nice question, but I hope you will understand by just by this example here. Look at the left picture. We see a lot of construction materials like steel and so on, right? And maybe that's a pedagogical separation of matter from form, a pedagogical separation, because in the right, everything is together. But the material itself, the construction material itself, it has inside it this matter and formal component. It has it's matter and form component itself. Because in the case of steel, they still have a matter component, which is some chemical element like iron, right? And the iron is arranged with by the industrial process. It will pass it passed for to become steel. It passed by this industrial process, so suffering lots of relevant modification in its arrangement, such that it gained the form it has. So the steel have a form of steel. You can do several things with steel because the steel have some form, right? So even if we think we separated matter from form, this is an illusion. I cannot separate completely matter from form, because matter is, like I said, a principle, and form is also a principle. That's right. Yes, that's correct. Exactly this. That's true. Okay, right? Okay, I will proceed with the next example. Here we can see an electronic board, right? We see in the left an electronic board containing circuits, and in some sense it can be thought as the analogous to the middle picture showing the building construction before. The matter part is the electronic devices, which is not showing here, okay? Is the electronic devices like semiconductors, transistors, conduction wires, capacitors, resistors, and etc. The electronic board is a complicated arrangement like that building in construction in the middle picture. The electronic board is a complicated arrangement of these material devices, semiconductors, resistors, capacitors, and we can anticipate a potential computer which is being assembled just in the right picture. In the right picture, we see a whole ready computer, right? Personal computer. So we have the whole substance in the right, which is a personal computer composed by matter and form. That's the analogous, another analogy, right? But it's important to notice, to observe that the whole building or the whole personal computer in the right do have not simply two layers, one of matter and another layer of form. That's not true. As the intermediate entities, the electronic board and the constructor structure, as the intermediate entity suggests, we can expect that there are actually several intermediate layers coexisting simultaneously in every single substance. In every single substance, in every single corporeal entity, we have existing simultaneously several intermediate layers. Okay, we in different degrees of materiality and of formality, right? For instance, the personal computer contains simultaneously the electronic boards. It contains also several arrangements between them, and it also contains the electronic devices like semiconductors, capacitors, conduction wires, etc. And each device, like the capacitor, contains a material arranged internally in a particular way, typically two conductors and a dielectric, maybe, okay? And these materials are composed by one or more chemical substances. So there are several different degrees, several layers in different degrees of some layers closer to for the formality, and another layers more close to material substratum, right? Okay. But the chemical substances themselves are, as the name suggests, substances, right? That's what I said. That's what I answer. I have answered. You have several chemical substances, several chemical elements that can be seen as material part of nature, whole nature. But still, there are not materias, separated materia. Okay. The chemical elements are themselves, they have themselves form and matter. They have form and matter because they are substances. But observe an important difference here. The building and the personal computer are artificial substances made by men. They are artifacts, which in Portuguese we call artefato. Okay. They are not natural beings, like a rock, like a stone, for instance, or like oxygen, or like iron. They are not natural things, they are artifacts. The chemical elements are natural beings. There is not any picture in the right, but any picture of the natural world with physical bodies, with mountains, stones, rocks, and clouds would fit well. So we could have in the right picture here, okay, in the right picture here, which is missing, in the right picture from the periodic table, we could have the upper layer, which could have shown the right picture, which is missing, can show physical bodies like mountains, stones, and etc. They are natural substances, complete substances, fully filled with several layers intermediate between matter and form. And an additional picture in far right could show a vigorous tropical forest with several trees, also with plenty of animals. Everything here are natural substances. Okay, for those the material component can be thought as the chemical elements. But of course, there are several differences between natural beings and artifacts, but maybe we can mention that it appears to be much more intermediate layers in the dimension matter form than in natural substances than in artificial ones. Okay. In the example of the buildings, we show three pictures that represents I cannot turn back the page because there is some bug, but remember in the three pictures I showed that in the buildings, we showed three pictures that represents more or less all the graduation between matter and form components. But in the natural beings, I would say that the dimension matter form seems to be practically a continuous dimension. All right. It is important to remark that as the artifact itself is also a natural being in the sense that it has natural beings inside, it has also a continuous dimension matter form inside. Right. Please. Yes, I think so. I thought that also. Maybe this picture. All right. Maybe you are right. What's your name, please? Tiago. Okay. Maybe it's right. In some sense, there are you can see an infinite world to be explored in every single substance. Maybe that's the point, your point. Maybe it's true. Okay, let me proceed. In this, because this example is very difficult because there are two pictures here. I did not speak anything yet about the left picture. Okay, I am speaking about the right picture and the possible right pictures which is missing here, which because we are talking right now about the example of natural beings, not artifacts. So the chemical elements can be seen as the matter counterpart of natural beings, but also as natural beings themselves. They are natural beings themselves because they have matter and form component also. The chemical elements in periodic table, they themselves are substantial things with matter principle and form principle inside them, right? And here the situation is very different because the atoms and molecules are a kind of reality too small for our senses. So maybe it can be considered as a rational entity in spite of a real entity. Jacques Maritain used it a lot in his philosophy. He used a lot this expression of rational entity, which in Portuguese you say ente de razão. Ente de razão versus ente real, ente real, ente de realidade, real entity, right? Whatever will be, whatever real or rational, the matter underlying the atoms seems to be quite bizarre. That's which it is described by modern physics, theoretical physics. We have fundamental particles thought as mysterious entity without spatial dimension. The fundamental particles are thought as just points. That's very bizarre thing. So maybe that's not a corporeal thing, right? That's right. That's why I suspect it. All of these things are rational entity. So, as I was telling, the fundamental particle, this fundamental particle matter, which would explain electrons, protons, neutrons, quarks, they all are put together with the interactions itself, which is also which the interactions are also idealized as mediating particles. Okay, the interactions themselves are thought as particles also, which would be the photons, gluons, and vector bosons. Here we have the material counterpart of the elements, right? This matter counterpart maybe is not a real thing, but a rational thing, a rational entity, and it has some material particle here in the left. Here we have quarks, that is the building builds the proton, neutrons, and so on. And here we have another electron, another fundamental particle. And here in the right, we have the interaction particles. We have photons here, which mediates the electromagnetic interaction. We have I forgot. Sorry. We have here gluons, which is the particle who mediates the strong interaction between protons and neutrons, between quarks, in general speaking. Between quarks, okay? That's the force which keeps the nucleus intact, right? And we have also vector bosons responsible for electromagnetic interaction and also weak interaction, okay? Which is some kind of electromagnetic interaction happening responsible for some decays, beta decay, and so on. But I don't want to speak more more up to this point, beyond this point. Okay, please. Yes. Yes, you are right, but the detection of these particles is very indirect, right? You detect the particles by means of by using several technical apparatus, lots of electronic devices and so on. Is that's different? Is it this way of detection of perceiving these entities are different from the way I perceive a stone, just a stone that is in front of me. I perceive the stone directly by direct perception and by senses. And the perception and the detection of maybe a neutrino of an electron is a very indirect process mediated by a very complicated electronic devices, right? That's the reason by which you can see a lot of people saying that maybe an electron is a rational entity and not a real entity, right? But that's right. Yes, yes, they are not rational in the sense of the concreteness. I cannot we cannot perceive directly the concreteness in the electron, but the electron tells about something real, which is part of the reality. That's true, right? Okay. All right. So that's the example of natural beings, and let us see. Uh, I after this talk, I will show a link that you can see a video in YouTube about an example, a clear example in which you can see a material content alone as is if it were separated, completely separated from form, and we see in the same entity we can see a formal component as it were separated from the whole entity. Okay, but afterwards, not now, because I will not know to I don't know how to manage this technology here, right here, and I am afraid to to break this Okay, so let us continue. That's the link. Then I afterward I will copy this put it in the chat. Okay, don't worry. But so observe that every individual corporeal entity has both several overlapping layers of matter and form. The clay itself, before becoming a sculpture, has in it a matter content, some chemical elements as minerals and water, and a formal content also, which is responsible for some properties like texture, weight, and especially the property that can be changed the format of its exterior borders, right, to become sculpture, right. The clay have a more significant existence as the form of a sculpture, right? The sculpture have a more significant existence because a clay itself can be something, and a sculpture already is something. That's the essential difference between these two principles, matter and form. The form is the analogous to the act because it exists. Everything exists by having a form, and everything is act. If something is an act, it exists by act, so you can see it has a form. And the analogous to potency, the analogous of potency is the form. The analogous of potency is the matter, because the matter the matter can be something. The clay can be something, and the clay is the analogous of matter. It gives the potency to have some form, right? So that there is an analogous relation between the two dualities, the duality matter and form, and the duality act and potency, right? Here is just a picture. I can choose more or less the localization. We have a vertical dimension, matter to form, and you see maybe that if you remember that examples I told, maybe I can set a sculpture here. Sculpture, clay is a material aspect, is more material than sculpture. So that's right. That's why I put clay in the lower layer here, okay, compared to sculpture. And we have the more material structure here in the clay, water, silica, aluminum, more material, and more material layer in the semiconductors, which is by itself a material counterpart of the electronic circuits, that is by itself the material component of personal computer, softwares, okay, and so on. The worldview, in Portuguese, cosmovisão, in German, Weltanschauung, the worldview resulting from the matter-form duality, both real and incorporeal things, is exactly what the word cosmos means, which is from the Greek, the meaning, its meaning is order or ordered universe. There is an order. And order means hierarchy, a vertical coordinate ranging from less ontological importance upward to more ontological importance in the top. Okay. This vertical dimension is an essential parameter to justify what we all learned about the structure of nature. The universe is not a multitude, it's not simply a multitude of atoms and particles and fields, right? It is composed by 4 kingdoms: the mineral, the plant, and the animal, and the human. But just a remark here, just a remark, because there are several different possibilities to make this classification, right? You can see different authors classifying everything just in 3 kingdoms or 5, 6. There are different ways to classify, but I'm showing just a possible classification in 4 kingdoms, right? The mineral is the most material layer, and it serves as the plant and all other kingdoms. The humans, of course, belong to the most formal, and in the sense that's why the ancients, thought that humans are in the top of the creation, and that's why, because the universe is ordered. You have an order, okay, a vertical dimension present in everything, and the humans belong to the most formal of the kingdoms because they have more essential capacities. Which capacities I'm talking about? Because I mean, the minerals is the inorganic in general. Everything is inorganic. It has capacities. The capacities is studied by physics and chemistry. Okay, it has a very complex reality. The mineral reality encompasses a very complex, a very complicated reality. But the plant is more complicated, still more complicated, because the plant will present all the mineral capacities plus the nutrition and reproduction. I mean, I'm saying nutrition and reproduction, but we can say many more things, because I mean development. But let us synthesize in just 2 things, okay? Nutrition and reproduction. The nutrition itself encompasses lots of different capacities, but I can just take all of them and give the unique name, nutrition, and the same with reproduction, right? And the animal kingdom, the animal beings, they have all the plant capacities, all the vegetables capacities, plus the sentience and mobility. They can move from one side to another, and they can, according to its sentience, according to they have a perception of reality in turn around him. The animal can react according to a reality, corporeal reality he is perceiving right now, right? And the human have all the plant capacities, of mineral capacities, of all of the animal capacities, and plus the volition and intellection, because we cannot, it's impossible to see an animal, maybe a dog. How can I say? How can I say jejum in English? I forgot. The fasting. The animal can, that's right, you cannot see any dogs making us sacrificing his lunch, because they want to do something. You cannot see, but the human can have an educated volition, a strong volition, and the human makes sacrifices. The human makes sacrifices by free will. And the intellection, you cannot see a dog making an abstraction of reality. You cannot see a dog planning what he will be tomorrow. Okay, of course he can expect his lunch or his breakfast. He can have an expectation, but a dog cannot have plans for tomorrow, because we humans have consciences, and you cannot see dogs teaching another dogs about the human nature. That's impossible. Just we can do this, right? So that's the natural nature, and you can see a lot, learn a lot of this cosmovision, of this worldview, in the first part of this book I wrote here, The Model of Nature, which I translated to Portuguese, right, from William Wallace. Okay. So that's continuing. So you have yin and yang, and yin, the right, symbolizes the perfectly intelligible clarity, knowledge, which is the same thing more or less symbolized by form, and matter symbolizes the unintelligible thing, because it's the pure potency. That's the principle of unintelligibility, right? But you see the little spherical portion of unintelligibility in the right area, and we see the right little portion of intelligibility in the dark portion. It means that both are principles that coexist. In this way, they are inseparable. You can try to clarify at the maximum extent something, but it will still remain some mysterious in everything, okay, and vice versa. Oops. We will read, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens symbolize the form and the earth the matter, right? I will not take much details in this part, because this part I should have talked yesterday. And in Greek mythology, Uranus and Gaia, the parents of Cronus and other gods, the Uranus symbolize form and Gaia symbolizes matter, right? I will speak a little bit more Cronus, just very few. And that's what's just let us recapitulate the key features of form and matter that I have spoken until now. First, form is the principle of intelligibility. Form is the element of unification, because by understanding something, you somehow unify some elements, okay. Also, form gives unity to its material components. That's right, what I said. You understand something when you grasp its form. Matter versus form, as I think I told about yesterday, is analogous to potency, to the dimension potency versus act. Matter has an essential indetermination, like the yang in the Oriental wisdom. Matter is ontologically inferior to form, ontologically, just because form is analogous to act, which exists, right? I changed, because matter is analogous to potency, and form is analogous to act, which exists. Matter is the principle of individuation. I told about it, right? Now let's uncomplexify the complexity itself. Now we can try to give an essential definition of complexity. The complexity is characterized by a lack of understanding, right? Everybody agree with that. But let us see the etymology of this word. Complicated or complex comes from Latin complexus, which means intertwined, tangled, or united. This is in Portuguese what people say, entrelaçado or emaranhado, right? Thus, when we perceive a relationship between several elements, but do not understand clearly what is and why is that relationship, from where it comes from, we say that those elements are in some way united or complex. So that's the complexity. Thus, complexity is characterized by two elements, typically. A material content or multiplicity, several elements, and a sign or a signal of some or a manifestation, if you want, of some unknown form which is present in the elements. There are unknown form unifying, somehow unifying some elements, and this sign is accessed by our perception, but hidden from our intelligence. I put this, again, those two pictures just for you to remember that this picture was a kind of intermediate instantiation between form and matter. Here in the left we see material content. There are several elements, multiplicity of several elements, steels, concrete, but we can perceive a non-trivial arrangement between these elements, such that we can we have an intuition that it has some form, missing form here. And the same happens with the picture in the right. We have a non-trivial arrangement, and by this non-trivial arrangement we have an intuition that it has some missing form here. And of course, the missing form is in one case is the building, and in another case is computer. But the exact building, the precise building that this configuration will transform itself, and the precise computer with its capabilities that the electronic board will be, we don't know exactly the exact form. Okay, each one, the matter and also form, acts directly on the other. Matter feeds form. In Portuguese, a matéria alimenta forma, just to become clear. And form spills over matter. Em português, a forma se derrama sobre a matéria. So I was talking about why mathematical science is so complex, right? And I would like to explain a little bit more. Why does the quantity belong to the lowest floor in the dimension matter form? Why I'm speaking? I'm saying that quantity is the most material counterpart of anything. Imagine 5 cats, 5 dogs, 5 horses, and 5 whales. What do they have in common? of course, there are many things in common, right? For example, they are living beings, they are animals, and also they are mammals. Now add 5 crocodiles and 5 chickens. They still have many things in common, of course, but less than before, because neither chickens and neither the crocodiles are mammals, right? Adding a lot more will make difficult to find out a common feature. But as far as I add 5 things, we have always a single limiting thing in common, which is the quantity 5. We will always have the 5 as the element, as the common element for any set of 5 elements, right? That's obvious. The quantity is then the last genus, genero, I mean in Portuguese, the last genus that fits every group. We can forget all genus and species which define things, and still there will be the quantity. So that's why we can repeat the scholastic notion here, which is the quantity. The quantity is the first formality or the first accident, if you want, that inheres. I don't say how to pronounce. Quantity is the first accident or the first accidental formality that inheres on prime matter. Below, which means below quantity, nothing more, pure matter, right? So, let us conclude. I will make the main conclusions, just to have an opportunity to review the main concepts and ideas. And we are finishing here the presentation, right? And if you have some question, you can make question or write, and I will try to answer. So, first conclusion: every corporeal entity has an inner dimension, which is a vertical dimension, and we call it matter form. Right. Okay. Matter is the principle of unintelligibility, and form is the principle of intelligibility. Remember that matter are not a substance, neither form, at least in our corporeal world. But matter and form are both principles. And also, that's an important thing which happens also with the 4 elements, material elements that compose the world, Aristotelian, which is water, fire, air, and earth. These elements are also principles, right? And for instance, the fire is hot and dry, and the water is wet and cold. The hot is not just we have hot and the, because in physics it happens that the cold is the absence of hot in some sense. But here in this the Aristotelian picture here, as they are active principles. The four principles, these four principles are active, all active principles, which means that the hot is the cold is not just the missing hot. It is another thing. It's the opposite. Okay, there is an opposition, but there are not. I am not telling about some positive quality and another qualities are characterized by the absence of the positive one. Okay, every four are positive qualities, and the same happens with matter form. Matter is not the absence, just the pure, simply the absence of form. That's a principle, right? A positive principle. Also, we have said that here that matter feeds form and form spills over matter. Complexity is detected when we feel the wet. Remember that form spills over matter. A forma se derrama sobre a matéria. Just to give an idea of something wet. Complexity is detected when we feel the wet in matter without the intellection of form, where the wet comes from. In other words, complexity is the mismatch or the unbalance between perception and intellection, with perception ahead of intellection. And that's complexity, right? So, okay, I'm dealt with indefinite number of influences, books, authors, and people, so on. But I can just cite some very important people that in somehow from my people from who that I learned a lot, and I could add here just René Guénon also. That's it. I hope you understood all the complexity in the world without need to understand each one alone. Thank you very much. And I'm open for questions, doubts. Maybe I can just stop recording here. I don't know. What do you think? But I can, of course, turn back to any page if you want, depending on some question. Okay, let me remember where without to understanding. Can you repeat? Okay, that in front of me. Okay, because I gave you the general concept of complexity, the essential characteristic of complexity, which defines complexity itself as generic idea. But every particular complexity, of course, you have to go ahead and to try to make an intellection of the missing form, right? But the general idea of complexity, that's it, right? Okay. Okay, people, I will stop recording.